After weeks of being sheltered in place, with millions of people losing their jobs, worries about how to keep everybody healthy and safe while also meeting everybody's basic needs seems to be at the forefront of most people's minds. Right now seems like a somewhat odd time to be focused on climate change and climate-related issues. Climate and COVID, however, aren't entirely unrelated problems. Climate change can act as an accelerant for many of the issues that plague our species, and the emergence of large-scale epidemics is no exception to that rule. There are four primary mechanisms through which climate change can contribute to the rise and spread of infectious diseases. Hotter temperatures and stronger storms accelerate the thawing, burning, flooding, or drying out of certain habitats. And when habitats change, animals move, and this movement leads to more various animal species coming into closer contact with one another. This increasingly close contact significantly increases the likelihood a disease will spread between animal species. The Nipah outbreak in Malaysia a few years ago is a prime example of this. Fruit bats that had been removed by forest fires began to feed on the same fruit trees that were on farms with domesticated pigs. This close proximity allowed the virus to jump from bats to pigs to farmers in a way that wouldn't have happened without the environmental pressures. Climate change also threatens to bring with it heavier rainfalls, higher humidity levels, increased flooding, and melting ice. Heavier rainfalls breed mosquitoes, higher humidity levels assist in the breeding of pathogens, and increased flooding threatens to displace millions of people. Additionally, researchers recently announced finding 33 viruses that have been frozen for 15,000 years in a melting glacier in Tibet. Most microbes struggle to survive in extreme cold temperatures, but worst-case scenarios could see pathogens that have been frozen for centuries in the ground released back into the environment. This is precisely what happened when a large anthrax outbreak struck Siberia back in 2016. An Arctic heat wave thawed a thick layer of permafrost, uncovering the carcasses of animals that had long ago died of anthrax. As a result, anthrax spores spread across the tundra, hospitalizing dozens of people and even taking the life of one 12-year-old boy. As ice continues to melt, the likelihood of ancient diseases re-emerging and infecting a people anew only increases. Stressed animals are more susceptible to disease. This is because when you're stressed, you're immunocompromised and shed more virus. Right now, the overwhelming majority of stress on this planet is probably felt by animals caught up in our industrial farming system. These densely packed spaces are the perfect environment for the mutation and emergence of new diseases. Climate change can also be a driving force behind a significant amount of stress, both in human and non-human animals. By 2050, hundreds of millions of people will be exposed to chronic flooding, billions will experience periods of water scarcity, and dramatic yield losses for crops threatens to turn millions of farmers into migrants. Today, activists are already being killed, communities destroyed, and whole populations of people displaced due to environmental destruction. Stressful doesn't even begin to describe these experiences, and as a result, we're all going to be more susceptible to epidemics as time goes on. One of our key defense mechanisms for fighting off disease is the relatively high temperature of the human body. This is why we get a fever when we get sick. It's literally our body heating itself up to stimulate the immune system and try and create an environment where pathogens struggle to survive. This human quality protects us from a ton of different pathogens and fungi that are more devastating to cold-blooded creatures like amphibians and reptiles. But pathogens that have normally only been seen at lower temperatures are starting to adapt to warmer conditions. Take the species Candida auris, for example. A drug-resistant fungus that gets into the bloodstream and causes a bunch of problems. Human infections caused by Candida have cropped up independently on 3 separate continents in just the span of a few short years. The fact that the only commonality between these separate outbreaks is higher average temperatures suggests that the fungus has adapted to warmer conditions. If Candida can do it, there's no reason to suspect that other species can't do it too. In this way, every hotter than average day is a selection event, where the pathogens that are able to survive and reproduce come out of it better equipped to survive in warm conditions, including the ones inside our bodies. This process could lead to the loss of one of our body's best defenses against microbes. To map out the consequences of climate change, one has to navigate through an intricate web of multifaceted causes and effects. It's impossible to say for sure that coronavirus was or wasn't influenced by climate change. What is clear, however, is that without extensive climate action, pandemics are only going to become more common and more devastating as time goes on. If coronavirus has taught us anything, it's that when people around the world unite around a common issue, they can overcome great challenges. In the words of activist and author Naomi Klein, if enough of us stop looking away and decide that climate change is a crisis worthy of Marshall Plan levels of response, then it will become one. On this 50th anniversary of the celebration of our planet, let's work together to make that happen.